Welcome back to another project analysis series, and I'm Eric.
I'm Gina.
And today we're going to be talking about Hudson Place. A place that is a very nice name, but the main concern, I think, if some of you that might have known, right, this area is actually in the One North area, but there's no MRT.
After all the MRTs we've been talking about, all the projects with MRT.
Yes.
Suddenly we are faced with one that it's near Mediapolis cluster.
Yeah.
One North, no MRT. How?
So I think this is something that we want to address today, because a lot of people have been talking about this area because launch after launch, being hype after hype, right? Like, will this be another project that will be sell out?
Yep.
We see about that, because main thing is when we look at all the projects recently that have launched, a lot of them is just right beside MRT, especially from Bella Bay to even
Yeah, it's
Tengah.
almost like connected or right beside, next to.
Yeah, correct. So one of the main things that we really want to go through today is whether does a MRT near to your property itself, does it really plays a super big part in terms of your entire performance? That's something that we really want to go through today. So of course, without further ado, let me go through a little bit on where exactly it's Hudson Place. This is the image that you are seeing over here, where Hudson Place is of course a 2-block residential unit over here, and we have commercial units down at the ground floor itself over here, which is also very similar to what we have previously, the neighbor Bloomsbury Residences. Okay, now it is also close to the Wessex estate itself. Let me show you in this map. This star over here is where our plot of land is. If I zoom in a little bit, right beside Bloomsbury, and this is Hudson Place. Zoom out a little bit. This area is where the Wessex, I would say, the black and white houses is as of this point of time. There's this famous restaurant over there called Under the Linden. It is right over there as well.
Okay.
So I think one of the biggest appeal of this entire One North area, it is basically the Silicon Valley of Singapore, all right, which is where they have even the Lorong and Kampong AI. That is the whole idea of how this whole One North area is. The development from the government is mainly right now focusing on Mediapolis. Previously, they did the Biopolis area. Now it's more towards the Mediapolis. All right. So when we talk about this area itself, we want to understand in terms of the master plan and the distance to the MRT. Okay. So this property itself, it is not next to, it is not even near MRT, to be fair. So over here, this is where Hudson Place is. And using one map itself, the distance is about 1.1 kilometer. Alright, in terms of the plot ratio, it is slightly higher than our neighbor of 2.9 for Bloomsbury Residences. Where you see this subject to detailed planning, this entire area, this is where the Wessex estate is. As of right now, it is still there, and people are staying over there as well. We do have a lot of projects in the entire One North area, with projects that are really near MRT and projects that is further out from the MRT, though they are older.
Yes, older.
And cheaper. Now, the main thing we want to understand a little bit is this entire area. How will it affect you? Now, so today, the main topic of discussion that we'll be going through is the problems.
Problems.
Yeah, like basically the problems of One North area that we see at this point of time. Number one, namely the MRT. Because when I believe if you have some agents contacting you about, Hudson Place going to preview, I believe you have heard from your agents that some agents contacting you telling you, hey, Hudson Place is reviewing 1st of May. And they tell you it's okay, no MRT is okay one.
Shuttle
because
bus.
shuttle bus. But to be fair, I mean, as a homeowner itself, would you buy a place that has shuttle bus to MRT, or would you buy a place that has an MRT?
MRT. I would choose the MRT.
Yeah, so that's something that I feel, if you're on-stay buyers, that is something that you cannot so-called replace. You need it means you need it.
That experience is very different.
Correct. So of course, when we talk about the whole One North, then we will have to see projects that are nearer to MRT, yet older but cheaper. Is it something that, does it affect their performance? Is it better option to even consider that project?
Why would people, if I'm an investor, why would people rent Hudson Place or Bloomsbury instead of renting those that are closer to the MRT?
Oh, that is true. I mean, if
older,
I'm
but so I guess one of the things is like, will my rental be affected if I'm an investor then?
Because this area itself, we see that there is a lot of investor. On stay, not so much. So this is something that we'll dive in a little bit deeper. The next thing we want to talk about is also the land price. Because land price itself is always the first point of indication of the property, how is it going to price, how the developer is going to price the property.
But is it true?
Yeah, so this is something that we want to look at it a little bit further. People tell you lower land bid means cheaper price, cheaper starting from. Is
let's
that
buy.
true? Yeah,
But
that is something.
that may not be true. What we will show you later is that land price helps with price protection.
Yep.
Not necessarily means that if the developer buys the land cheap, that means they will sell cheap.
Correct. So
May not
we'll
always happen. Okay?
Yep, we'll dive into that. And also we want to talk a little bit about surrounding supply. Because surrounding supply, as of this point of filming,
Who is surrounding?
Bloomsbury. So Bloomsbury, they still have quite a fair bit of unsold units. So they are currently about 80% sold at this point of time, with the main bulk of 4-bedroom, they have about 27 units left. The question is, if you are buying 4-bedroom today, would you consider Blooms or would you consider Hudson?
Wow, difficult.
So this is something that we will answer later on towards the later part of the video. So watch on. So the unique selling point and the sweet spot, as well as our layout analysis. And then of course, feel free to let us know if you have any questions, because this video, this time around, we talk about problem after problem. It could get a little bit confusing.
Yes.
Okay, feel free to contact any one of us and we'll be more than happy to actually assist you on it. Moving forward, this is where we have our project info. So for this particular project for Hudson Place itself, these are the two main developers that you want to take note of. Qingjian as well as 4C. They are a very familiar name for in Singapore developer market in that sense. The past two projects, of course, Bloomsbury, that goes without saying, as well as Coastal Cabana from Qingjian as well. Okay, so moving forward, Hudson Place, of course, as mentioned earlier, this is a residential plot of land with commercial units on level 1. So this project will actually TOP around 2029.
September.
And yeah, correct. We have about 327 units over here. Now, for this entire area, it's considered a car light town.
Yep.
So with car light town itself, this is something that we have to take note of. There is only 134 car park lots out of 327 units. So being a
Slightly less than 50.
correct. So with this being a more of an investor-centric kind of property, now this is something that is very important for Hudson Place, which is the unit mix. So as you can see, like what we mentioned earlier, this is a really investor-centric product in terms of this entire market, where you can see 2-bedroom. It is
55.9%. That's
more than half.
Yes.
Even though we only have 300 over units, this is where we already have more than half of the units to be from the 2-bedroom. But we do have still the remaining to be the 3 and 4-bedroom. So mainly we only have 2 all the way to the penthouses, but penthouses limited unit. So really more of the own stay and really want a very, very big space.
Yes.
Big floor plates in this area. Hudson being the second plot of land over here after Bloomsbury. Bloomsbury was the first project to have tennis court in One North.
Yeah.
Hudson Place is the second. Okay, so we are seeing that the developer is trying to replicate what they have performed in Bloomsbury over here in Hudson Place as well. Alright, so for these two blocks itself, do take note there is different elevation. The total height of block 20 itself is actually 23 floor. And then for block 18 is 15 floor. The immediate surrounding of Hudson Place itself, on the top, this is where we have Bloomsbury. And at the bottom, we have Infinite Studio, which is roughly about level 13 in terms of the residential units over here.
Okay.
So, meaning to say, if you're getting a unit over on this side for block 20, if you're getting more than level 15, you are clearing this block and you're clearing Infinite
Studios.
You have a clearer, wider view of the entire area itself.
Yep. And that's also because why we are bringing this out is because the surrounding lands, few lands are still like not built up. We have no idea what it is. It's pending. So I guess for me, it's sort of like I would rather know what is already there. Right. So you know Bloomsbury, it's at the top, and at the bottom, it's Infinite Studios, and these two are known.
Correct.
And you know what view you're getting.
Correct. Next, the first problem.
MRT, or the lack of it.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, in all our, not in all, in the past few videos, we have had developments that's right next to MRT.
Correct.
And then suddenly here we have one that is not near MRT.
More than 1 kilometer away.
I wouldn't even walk to the MRT. I mean, in Singapore, you know.
Oh, recently it's been so hot, so...
It's like, by the time I walk there, I think I need a shower
Correct.
already. So it's really not walkable. So earlier we posed the question, MRT or shuttle bus?
Yeah.
What will you take? And what was your choice earlier, right? Now let's dive a little bit deeper into it. So we can see here that nearer to the MRT, there is One North Residences, right? A lot nearer as compared to Hudson Place, right? Now these two developments, when Hudson Place TOPs, these two developments sees a 20-year gap in TOP, okay? Now we can also look at, what we're trying to do is look at comparable projects in Singapore. These two projects are, one likewise, one is near MRT older, one is younger, not near MRT, Tanglin Regency, and Principal Gardens. Between the two of them, they have got a 21-year gap difference, right? So let's see where they are.
All right, so this is where we have Redhill MRT over here, and Tanglin Regency is the one that is older, yet
But
is the
nearer.
closest to the MRT. Now, then we compare with Principal Garden, which from the map you can also see that it's really quite a fair distance away. But we want to understand whether Principal Garden will perform badly, because we are talking
Further,
about
right?
we're talking about further MRT, will they perform worse off?
Yep.
So this is where we want to focus a little bit in terms of the per square feet itself.
Yes,
in terms of the
so
gap.
we will be looking at rental and how the resale transactions do.
Correct.
Okay?
First and foremost, this is the rental for Tanglin Regency as well as Principal Garden. Now, when we zoom in a little bit, this is where you see Tanglin Regency, despite being nearer to MRT, okay, the average per square feet that they have done, we are talking about $4.87. Whereas for Principal Garden, being a newer one that is further from MRT, they are looking at $6 per square feet. That is like almost close to $2
yes.
in terms of per square feet difference, which eventually it adds up.
Yes. Right. So that was rental. Let's look at the sale. And we're looking at resale, right? So for Tanglin Regency, back in 2015, right, we see that they are doing at about 1,164 PSF. Now, fast forward to today, their last transaction was about highest at 1,717, which sees a growth of about 47.5%. Principal Garden did in 2015, 1,519, and fast forward to today, it's 2,378 PSF. Now, so it shows that throughout this period, the growth, the incremental growth, is 56.3%.
Wow. So that is not near MRT, but higher though.
Right. It's sort of performing better.
At the end of the day, when we look at this comparison and when we do research about it, we realize actually further out for MRT,
May not be that bad.
may not be that bad if we are looking in terms of the performance itself. Because older property, despite having a better attributes in that
Yep.
sense, but they are still underperforming.
Yes, and I think in Singapore, this situation is very real because of lease decay. Right? And somehow, Singaporeans like newer stuff.
We all like shiny new object.
Yes.
All right. So earlier, what we saw was the 2-bedroom, and this time around, we're going to dive a little bit deeper for the 3-bedroom itself. So 3-bedroom for rental, we are looking at 4.78 per square feet for Tanglin Regency, and Principal Garden being further from MRT, we are getting 6.7. This is closer to even the $2 gap per square feet itself in terms of the rental. Now, when it comes to sale itself, this is where Tanglin Regency 1167, they grow all the way to 1719, which is similar to what we see 47.3%. But Principal Garden,
Wow.
this is where we see 1485, it jumped to the highest of 2699 per square feet. And it's an increment of 81.7%.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that if you are further from MRT, you will be, I would say, worse off in that sense.
Yeah, so it's sort of like common consensus that near MRT will perform better, further away from MRT will not perform as well, right? But
Yeah.
it's we have seen, and I mean through our research we have seen, and this is just one project that we're showing you, that it may not be like that. The only thing is you need to either drive or tahan the shuttle bus.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I think when we look at property itself, a lot of people tell, MRT, the best. But is it really the best?
The best experience.
It could be. But of course, when we do a comparison, because right now, the main comparison is a project that is older, which is in the one-off area that is closer to MRT, and then with Bloomsbury as well as Hudson itself, that is not near MRT.
Yes.
How will they fare? This is where this comparison comes into play.
So this is one example for you.
I think at the end of the day, the rental actually outperformed. Okay, even though despite being further from MRT, as what people will perceive being near MRT, rental will be higher.
Yep.
But that's not the case that we see from here. Now, another thing is the sale per square feet is actually higher. It increases exponentially as compared to the one that is significantly older.
I guess whether it's our own stay or for investment, we would want a better deal in both ways.
Yeah,
right?
I think what we can really get from this, one of the main focus point, but not the entire factor, is getting a newer property.
Yep. So we wonder if you have changed your mind yet. If you selected MRT just now, are you going for shuttle bus now?
Or are you going back to MRT?
Yep. Or you still stay with MRT? Well, it's your decision to make.
Hudson Place has already announced their indicative prices.
Oh yes.
So this is where we want to understand a little bit with the indicative prices that have already been announced. Is it a fair sweet spot to buy? Is it within the sweet spot? So when we look back at Tanglin Regency as well as Principal Garden, back then in 2015, their price gap was about 30.5%. and eventually outperform today's pricing.
Yep.
Right, in the resale market. Now, when we look back in the similar area, One North today residences, they are transacting at about 1707 average per square feet. Now, if we add another 30.5%, this will lead us to about 2227.
2227 PSF.
All right. So this is where I would say that is definitely the sweet spot. But
Yep.
we have our own, I would say, sweet spot that I would say, walk away price.
Yep.
Because if you are getting more than that, this is where you might have a little bit of issue trying to let go, I would say.
Yeah, sort of your profits, your potential profits sort of eaten
Your
into a
exit
little bit.
strategy, you might run into some hurdles, I would say. So this is where 30.5 is a very sweet spot, with Hudson Place having a starting from prices at 2002 XX per square feet.
Yep, and
Perfect.
even the 3 beds, it's going at 23XX.
For 2-bedroom itself, we do not wish to be above 35%.
Yep.
Okay? And then, of course, for the 3-bedroom itself, over here, the gap it is smaller back then, 27.2
only.
Now, today, if we add back the same 27.2 from One North Residences, this is where we get 2383 per square feet. Now, when we look at it, 2383 per square feet, it is still well within the 23XX per square feet that the developer has already announced.
Yes,
For
however, this 2383 is sort of on the higher end of 23, right?
Correct.
I mean, we don't know because the developers put it as 23XX. We don't know what range it could be.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with that, for this particular 3-bedroom itself in Hudson Place, I will actually walk away in terms of the price gap itself. It's more of around 32%.
31-ish percent.
Because if you get higher, that is where your per square feet gets higher, and you really want to consider, because even for your larger, bigger bedroom type, the per square feet is already higher, which we will talk about later on when we speak about the developer pricing strategy.
Yep.
Gina, I believe you hear a lot of people say lower land price means lower selling price.
Chiong buy.
Yeah, so today we want to really dive a little bit deeper whether is that the case over here. So we have 2 examples. The first being Affinity at Serangoon. We want to take note on the bottom right itself. They bought the land at 835 per square feet per plot ratio. So their break even was about 1356 per square feet. They bought the land at 835. Okay, now
How much they sell it for?
they started selling at 1304 per square feet. Not too bad, not too bad. Okay, but this is considered a higher land price to our next example. Jadescape. They bought the land, now you can take a look, it's 747 per square feet per plot ratio, with a break even of just only over 1,000 per square feet. Their launch price itself, they launched at close to 1,005 per square feet. So with these 2 examples itself, you saw Affinity at Serangoon, higher per square feet per plot ratio for the land cost.
Yes,
They
but
are
they sold
selling
lower
correct, even lower than their
than their
break even.
estimated break even. Yes.
Correct. Whereas for Jadescape itself, we are looking at it. They are buying the land at a lower
Low
land
price.
price, but they're selling at a higher
Higher.
price with 500 per square feet, even higher than their break even. So is it true to say that you buy low land price means that the developer will sell you lesser? Not
May
really.
not be.
May not be the case.
It really depends on the area and the cluster as well. I mean, if you look at Jadescape is in such a, it's sort of in a coveted area.
It's a sub-central area, I would say so.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's near the MRT, however. It's near the MRT, but it's sort of like there isn't much land around there.
There isn't also much supply in that
Yes,
area as
correct.
well. So many factors plays a part in terms of deciding how's the price going to be, so on and so forth. But today we want to bring back to the comparison of Hudson Place as well as Bloomsbury. So back then, Bloomsbury, they bought the land at 1191 per square feet per plot ratio. They started selling 2003 plus per square feet. Okay, so what you see here on the left is back then the indicative price that was given by the developer. And
who is the same developer as Hudson Place.
correct, Qingjian. So now, when we look at it, Hudson Place itself, the official indicative over here, starting from 22XX per square feet,
For the 2 beds.
they bought the land actually slightly cheaper than Bloomsbury.
Just very slight.
Correct. So 1191 and 1036 per square feet per plot ratio. So today you are actually starting from slightly lower. So back then 23, now 22.
Yeah.
We want to talk about price protection itself because Dover has been getting a lot of buzz. It's because the land price that they bought, take a look.
Just land price itself, yeah.
1556
Yeah.
per square feet per plot ratio, and their estimated break even is 2756. But the main thing I want you to focus on is actually who are the developers that got the land. It is actually the same
developer.
So with that itself, Dover being in the similar area to where Bloomsbury and Hudson Place is, we can see that developer is monopolizing this area.
Area.
I honestly think it will protect your price because these 3 different projects are their different babies.
Yep.
They wouldn't so-called kill the earlier baby to sell the later baby.
Yeah, so imagine if Hudson doesn't sell out when they launch.
Correct.
And then Dover comes into the market.
Yeah.
If Dover is from another developer and this developer wants to sabotage
And they want to sell it faster.
and they want to sell fast, this developer will be like, never mind, the initial phase, I will sell low.
Correct.
I will lure all of these potential buyers who was looking at Hudson, I'll lure all of them to Dover.
Correct.
Right? And so that's where if you have already bought, then that's when you're buying at a higher price compared to Dover, right? However, now we have the same developers. The developer will be like, don't self-sabotage. I sabotage myself, I sabotage myself as well, right?
Right.
So they wouldn't do that. And in that sense, that's why we are saying that with land price, what we are looking at is how it can protect us rather than buy low, the developer buy low, they will sell us low.
Yeah.
Because developers being developers, and I think in one of our earlier projects videos, we did say that developers want to maintain their reputation.
For sure.
Imagine this developer self-sabotage.
Very, very unlikely.
Who is going to want to buy their developments in future?
Correct.
There is no trust in them as well. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a very good thing in terms of Dover, even though the land bid is high, being same developer itself, this is where you can see they will definitely be protecting your prices if you are considering to purchase a unit over there. All right. So the next problem that we are heading into is actually the supply. So today when we talk about supply in the area itself, Bloomsbury still have about 27 units of the 4-bedroom. So when we look at a 2-bedroom, the smaller unit type, they left not much. So being 80% sold itself, the main thing we want to understand a little bit, it depends on whether what type of unit type you are looking for. Depends on, are you an investor buying a smaller unit or a big bedroom unit over here. So this is where we can see Bloomsbury, for bigger bedroom type, we have a lot of available units.
Is this a concern though?
Right now, not a concern if you ask me.
Why so?
Because if I'm a big bedroom owner over here, big bedroom owner usually own stay, and I want to move in immediately. Would I buy?
So they need to dispose before they buy.
Correct.
Right? Else they will ABSD. Imagine if they buy first and then they sell later.
And the timeline itself is a little bit tricky on that part. If I
Yes.
sell now, I need to wait, let's just say 2 years, 2-3 years, and then where do I go within this interim period?
So there is always that rental option, but with the big bed profile buyers, they tend to have small children and all this.
And a lot of
logistics to
Correct.
move and move and move. So with 4 beds in a lot of projects, we see the trend. The big bed layouts will always be the last to sell out.
Correct.
Okay, and it's because of timeline, as we mentioned earlier, and also ABSD. ABSD is to be paid in cash. Yeah, so cash flow, and do we want to throw so much cash in for the government and then to claim it back later?
So some of them might feel that it might not make sense to pay in a sense whereby I'm taking a bet whether on how I can get better ABSD from government, things like that. So there's a lot of hurdles. So this is why 4-bedroom usually tend to be the last few to go.
Yes, so we can show you a few examples of how 4-bedders are often the last to go, which is why Bloom's remaining units are not a concern for us.
Correct.
Okay.
So the first example we are going through is actually Tembusu
Grand.
Grand. So with Tembusu Grand itself, during the launch period, if you can take a look at the past transaction, in 2023, there is only one unit sold. Okay, during the preview. And when Tembusu is closer to TOP, during the entire period, now 2025 itself, there is 15 units of the bigger bedroom type, 4 bedrooms to go, comparing with just one unit
at launch.
Yeah. So this is where we really start to see a trend. People really just want to shift in and buy closer to TOP. They don't really mind so much about the seller stamp duty, because whenever people buy at preview in the earlier phase,
Seller stamp duty.
yeah, their main concern is, maybe
okay,
I want to flip it 4 years later after my seller stamp duty, but not the big bedroom type. Okay, so the next example, same thing, Grand Diamond during launch, only 6
units.
6 units. Now closer to TOP, wow. So this is where almost we have close to more than 3 times.
Yes, 20 units sold.
So 20 units sold when it's closer to TOP, and the TOP is close to end of 2026. And you see, this is where within the last around 9 months, we already have 20 units sold for the 4-bedroom itself. Okay, and the last example.
Closer to where we are.
Yeah, closer to where we are. Yeah, Pine Tree Hill, 3 units.
3 sold at the launch.
And closer to TOP, now
7 units sold.
7 units sold within the last 9 months.
And just by 7 units sold, it does not mean that there are remaining units. Tembusu and Pine Tree Hill are fully sold out in terms of their large beds.
I think when we look at the supply of the 4-bedroom itself and the bigger bedroom type, it's really not a concern at this point of time, because when we look at the past 3 examples that we have shown, we know that eventually it will still get sold out. But of course, not during the first initial phase.
Launch. period.
So where Bloomsbury, some people will say, hey, Bloomsbury still got units left. So this is where, if you are buying a 4-bedroom, would you be considered Bloomsbury or Hudson Place? Because Bloomsbury actually collect key first.
First, yes. So it really depends on why you're buying the 4 beds for.
Correct. I think when we talk about the TOP period, so Bloomsbury is early 2029, whereas for Hudson is late 2029. So it really depends on what you're looking for and your objective of your purchase, own stay or investment.
Right. So if you are buying a 4-bed for investment, right? Earlier we talked about own stay. Own stay, it makes sense for you to buy Blooms.
Yeah.
However, if you're buying for investment, hang on, even if it's own stay, but you do not need to move in yet, right? Like you move in only in 2 to 3 years time.
Correct.
Then Hudson is probably also an option for you. But if you are buying it for investment, because they are the bigger bed, you have got a hefty installments, right? With the big bedders, the rental yield tends to be slightly lower.
Entry price is already higher.
Entry price is high, rental yield tend to be a little bit lower, right? So it's something you want to consider. I would go for Hudson if I'm buying it for investment, so that I can ride through the 4 years seller stamp duty. Now seller stamp duty is 4 years, not 3 years anymore. So we can ride through it. When TOP, we collect keys and then we sell it as new. Again, Singaporean like new things, right? So when families want to move in, they would rather move into a place that is, it's new, it's just TOP, but it's still new.
Yeah.
Okay? If you are buying Blooms, however, it TOPs earlier, and what if you cannot sell immediately after TOP? What if you cannot sell?
Yeah, so that is really depending on your objective of purchase. So that one you have to do a lot of your own financial calculation and in terms of your own research. Okay, but I also want to point out that because this is the bigger bedroom type, what if you are actually an investor yourself? With 55% being the 2-bedroom, this is where we really see the difference in terms of the buying profile. So right now, if you are an investor watching this video, would you consider Hudson or would you consider Blooms?
For the 2 beds.
Correct.
Right? Because even with Bloomsbury, there are about 8.
Only 8 units left. Out of so many units over there in Blooms, there is right now only 8 units left. Because what we can see from here, investor, they want to enter as early as possible, exit as early as possible. So this is where what Gina mentioned earlier, the SSD and everything makes a lot of sense because investor, investment. They are investment buyers. So with that itself, this is where you really have to consider and then find out which is more suitable for your objective.
Yeah, so if with own stay or even if it's for investment, a project selection, unit selection, it has to be done in very careful consideration of your timeline, your needs, and the different situation that you are in, right? So it's something that you need to really research. And today we happen to have 2 developments that's next to each other. 4-beders still available in Blooms, 2-bed still available in Blooms. Should you buy 4-bed in Hudson or Blooms? Should you buy 2-bed in Hudson or Blooms? It really comes down to what is your intention, what's your purpose, what's your timeline.
As well as your holding period. If you want to rent it out, Blooms could be a better option because they collect key faster. Okay, now moving on, the sweet spot of this development.
Right, let's come to the unique selling point, the USP. What is the USP here? It's like previously we talked about MRT, we talked about view, we talked about convenience, we talked about
many things.
Very good value, right? Many things. What is the unique selling point here? It is different. It is not something that we have mentioned before.
Correct.
It is, I feel, rental yield. Why rental yield? It is in the Mediapolis area. There's a lot of officers, a lot of foreign workers, expats coming in. Therefore, in this area, I would think there will be own stay people who likes the a little bit more greenery, a little bit more quiet area,
especially during the weekend.
Yeah, especially over the weekend when it's quieter, and then there's this Wessex estate, So it's sort of a different feel to the rest of Singapore, but I feel that this is very heavy, and as Eric mentioned earlier, it's a very high investor-centric product, right? A very high investor-centric area, and therefore USP here, rental yield.
Definitely.
Now let's look at the rental. That it's a very strong rental area. We talked about it. If you look at the number of transactions in a short period,
the demand is strong.
Demand is very strong. However, then we look at the rental yield, right? So here we have One North Eden. The rental yield, 5,000, close to 5,001.
For a 2-bedroom.
For a 2-bedroom.
So with that itself, in the entire Singapore, when we look at anything above 3%,
it's good already.
Yeah, it's really very good rental yield. But for here itself, it's exceptionally good because you are getting 4%. So this is where the unique selling point really comes in, whereby if you are looking for rental yield, this is the place to go.
Yeah, and strong rentability. That other than rental yield, sometimes if you have to wait for a few months for the tenant to come, then it doesn't make sense because you're bleeding over the few months.
Correct.
Right? Then if you equate it up, the rental yield could be even smaller. But strong demand and rental yield, and therefore we think this is the unique selling point.
Yes. When we talk about the sweet spot, so by now, you should be familiar with our sweet spot itself. When we look at the sweet spot in this area and the unit mix itself, actually I think the 2-bedroom is in the sweet spot, especially when the pricing has already been announced. Why do I say that? Because the 2-bed resale has already transacted $2,468 per square feet in this area. Now this is 2-bedroom per square feet, 3-bedroom per square feet, and the 4-bedroom per square feet. You make a comparison with our starting from pricing, you're having a gap of about $200 per square feet because 2468 already been accepted. Today, you're entering at about 22 plus, even 23. You are still lower than the resale market.
And if you see the resale market has a reversal, the 2 beds are transacting at higher PSF, the 4 beds are transacting at a lower PSF.
Correct.
Today, the developers have reversed it.
Correct.
The 2 beds are going at a lower PSF and they are loading. You will be familiar with us saying this now. The loading is on the bigger units, right? So you can see that the developer has loaded on the 4 beds at 24 plus PSF.
Yep.
Right, so there's a reversal here. When there's a reversal, it means there's a gap. That means you actually are going in at a better deal.
So this is where we think the sweet spot for Hudson Place will be. So of course, like what Gina mentioned, this is where we touch on a little bit on the developer pricing strategy. Similar to all the previous videos that we have mentioned, they definitely will have a floor jump. And remember, we talked about view earlier. This is where they will also have view jump. Now, unit type loading, this is where we already see it from the indicative itself. The smaller bedroom type has the smaller per square feet.
Yep.
Since 55% of the unit type is the 2-bedroom
Almost
itself.
56,
Yeah, more than that. It will really come from the average per square feet is really from the smaller bedroom type. Most of it.
Correct.
Yeah. If you are still very confused, very, very lost, feel free to connect with any one of us and we will actually clarify if you have any more questions. Let's move on towards the layout analysis for this development. 2-bedroom or 2-bed, 2-bath.
Which is really nice.
Now, the first thing that we want to take note of is enclosable squarish kitchen. But the main thing for our 2-bedroom layout over here, there is
no windows.
no window. The smaller size that we have is actually the 646 square feet. Within the unit itself, not much of a difference, but the external has a very, very big difference, especially the view that you might be getting. So for example, BA1 over here, we see stack 8 and stack 9, different facing itself, okay? And the wall here, different stack has different protruding length of the wall. Now, whereas for 646 stack 18, you see the wall is protruding very, very long.
Yes.
Okay, so that is something that you really want to take note of, especially if you are more of an own stay buyer and you're more, I would say, particular in terms of the way your unit looks.
When you look outwards.
Correct.
Yes. So for those who are curious why there's a long protruding wall, it usually is your neighbor's house.
Correct.
So when you have a longer protruding wall, your neighbor, it's a bigger unit, has got needed that more space, therefore you have that protruding wall. Now between B1A, stack 08 has a slightly longer protruding wall at the masters versus stack 09. Stack 09 hasn't got that long one.
And also in terms of the kitchen layout itself, for the B1A over here, we are seeing that the fridge and the washer dryer is opposite of each other. Whereas for B1D, once you come into the kitchen, you do see the fridge and the washer dryer, it is on the same side. A little bit different for those people that really cook. Over on the B1D side, you have above the washer dryer that additional so-called preparation space. But you do not have the full length tabletop space on this side.
Yeah, because the stove and the sink is together.
Correct.
Whereas for 1A, your stove and sink are separate. And you sort of have got countertop at both sides then, a slightly bigger countertop. It really is a preference thing. Don't even bring in feng shui. Feng shui here will have got other specifications, but for feng shui buyers, you know which stack you will go for.
Consult your feng shui
master.
Another thing I want to highlight is actually the stack itself. We do have stack 9 that have angled west sun over here. So that's something you want to take note of. But if you're an investor, It doesn't really matter in that sense.
You never know, right? Some tenants will love it.
Because do take note, here is also Infinity Studio.
It might be blocked as well.
Another 646, the B1B and the B1C.
What is the difference? Even if you look at all these layouts, right? All the two-bed layouts, I have a hard time playing I Spy with them.
The main thing is all very minor differences. For these two particular layout, one of the difference is really the length of the foyer. The next thing is the way you walk in, where is the
DB
wall
box.
and the DB box. So if I look at B1B over here, we come in, we have a very nice space followed by a DB box over on this side. Whereas when we go towards B1C, we can see that once you step in, you will be met with a sharp angle over here
Yes.
of the wall and then followed by your DB box. It's very minor, don't play much of a difference, but in the future when resale buyer comes in, they will feel the difference because of your whole perception of the unit itself.
Yes, so when you actually see the place, a small little stuff here and there makes a difference. That said, B1C has a hackable kitchen wall. So because the DB box is not attached to the kitchen wall, you can actually hack that kitchen wall, make it open concept. So it depends on what you're looking for. Flexibility, you can go for B1C. If you don't mind that little wall protruding out over there.
The 2-bedroom premium plus study, so 689 square feet. When we look at it itself, the main difference of the study is how they place the study. So for example, B2 over here. B2, the study, it's almost like a suggested study area.
Yes.
Instead of a proper study area where we see from B3, this is where once you come in from the main door, on the left side, you have a proper study and close inwards, not together with your dining. And personally, for me, I like this a lot because if I'm an investor over here and I want to rent it out, I can just enclose this and rent it out as one very big room and then I rent out my master.
So you have two ensuite.
So this is where I would prefer the proper study that is also just linked to the bathroom.
The A one with that suggested study, right? It makes it open for a lot of possibilities, you know, for people who wants to do space design. The
Bigger dining area.
The artsy-fartsy people will know how to deal with this space. And I know for sure there are people who will know how to design this space and make it really beautiful.
Moving forward, we have the 3-bedroom. The smallest that we have over here, it is the 893 square feet, one stack, which is facing Infinite Studio. This is the compact and we have all the necessary windows.
Those at the kitchen and toilets.
So this is where we see window. Of course, we have privacy foyer as well. This is where for those people looking at feng shui, I think this is something that is the basic need. And a study alcove. But this study alcove is just one small area. It is not like the proper study that we saw earlier.
Yeah, no, eventually I'll turn it into a storage cabinet.
Yeah.
It's weird to be in the walkway and then you're sitting there. You know?
Correct. So we also have interesting DB box right in the middle of the house, which means to say your Wi-Fi for sure got coverage on.
Correct. You don't have to go all the way until master bedroom like siala, no Wi-Fi.
Correct.
And you need a extender or a Nest.
So this is where we have the 3-bedroom premium, 2 different sizes, 1012 as well as the 1023. For this particular layout itself, the main differences is really in the walkway. As you can see, one is the open up, turn left immediately your entire house. The other one is really just a privacy foyer. The rest of the area, more or less the same.
So with the premium, they have the yard, the WC and a home shelter. You have a wet and dry kitchen that is hackable.
If you do a lot of hosting, you know, I think the dry kitchen can be a very nice area as well.
Yes, correct. So if you hack that wall away, you sort of have an island.
Or even larger area.
Right. The other thing I like about C2 is that it is southeast facing. It is not facing Infinite Studio. For now, it is not blocked. We don't have to deal with the west sun, but the morning sun. Okay. However, the downside is we don't know what's coming up.
Correct. The next plot of land itself.
For now, we don't know what.
We do not know.
Yep, no idea. Now, the other thing, if you can see that it's circled up, it has a longer protruding wall at the yard, which means no one can see into your common toilet, your common bathroom. But it means that your kitchen will potentially be darker, the bathroom will be potentially darker. But some people sort of like that privacy of just opening up the bathroom window and not having to worry about people looking in. So that is one plus in that sense.
Moving towards the 3-bedroom plus study, this is where we have 1055 square feet. To be fair, when we look at this, The difference between this and the
C2.
premium, the differences is about 43 square feet. And if we are assuming of a 2,004 per square feet itself, the difference is about 100,000 for a proper study. Would you pay 100,000 for a proper study instead of a study alcove?
Needless to say, I will do a proper study. Now, the other thing with this study is that if you look at where the windows are, it is an L-shaped windows. It actually allows lights in very well. The other thing is I can move the master bedroom door further out to enclose the study as well.
So this is where you want to have another walk-in wardrobe?
A baby room. The potential is there. I would say 100K, why not?
If it's 200K?
Nah.
You have your answer.
For own stay, if investment, I would think let's go for C1, the deluxe, the most basic one.
As low as possible lah.
Yep, because your rental is higher.
Moving forward, we have the 4-bedroom. So this is where 4-bedroom itself, we have two different layout, same exact size, but very, very minor differences within the unit.
I like how you think, Jian, right? Within the unit, the differences are really very minor.
You really can't tell unless you go and try and find out what's the difference.
They really tested my I Spy skills there.
So for the D1B, this is where you see there is only a RC latch by the kitchen. There is no aircon latch. The aircon latch, of course, is here. But mainly, what do we see within your inside of your unit? The washer dryer, one is towards the home shelter area. The other one is right by the window. The orientation is once we come in for D1A, you come in, you have a bathroom ensuite with a bedroom over here. Whereas the other one, you walk in, you see a bedroom first before you see a bathroom.
Which then means the common bathroom is closer to the master bedroom door. How do you like it?
Depends on personal preference. That is just the minor differences that we saw.
No, but that also means that the A layout, once you enter the master bedroom door, you have a little bit longer aisle in the master bedroom. The other thing with B, imagine you're staying inside bedroom 4. Okay, let's say for A, you look out your windows, you see a wall. And for B, in bedroom 4, you look out your windows, you're gonna see the toilet window, and on your left, the yard window.
And the wall is...
If somebody loves to walk in your house, you get the walkway coming from that window into your window.
You get to know what is the food coming up first before they announce.
Before the rest of the household. You know what's for dinner, what's for lunch.
So that is just the small minor differences for the 1152 4-bedroom. This is where we move on to the 1432, the suite plus flexi. Now the main difference, we have private lift and minor differences once again. D2A, you see the wall, it is pushed back away from the home shelter wall.
Yes.
Whereas for the D2B, immediately you come in, the wall is closer to you, closer towards the end of the home shelter.
The home shelter is also slightly different layout. One is longer, one is squarish.
Correct. So when we talk about this kind of layout, it is what we have been mentioning in the earlier part of the video. It's really own stay, and of course, a lot of them likely to be sold closer towards TOP.
So it's very minute difference how you visualize coming into your house, what it looks like. I know of people who are concerned about how the bomb shelter layout looks like, how they actually can place things inside. So these two are the main differences for A and B. Otherwise, for 4-bed suite and flexi, you have got the private lift, and the flexi, it's sort of like a hackable wall, and then it is next to the living.
I think one of the interesting factor of this unit type is when we walk home, it feels very wide and very long. So this
and if you had that flexi, it's even wider.
Yeah, so this is where you really get the very, very grand feel overall. I just thought of it. If you want to make it even bigger, your private lift, you can even hack away this wall.
So there are a lot of walls that are hackable here.
So this is where I think you are looking for a grand kind of living room, and you really love this area and you want it for own stay. This is something that you really can consider.
And the other tiny bit of information, it's that D2A, it is northeast facing. In that sense, right now it's Bloomsbury facing, but you are at the end of Bloomsbury already. Where else D2B, you get potential West Sun, amenities facing, swimming pool facing. It could be pricier because of the facing, but we don't know because the West Sun consideration as well.
Hard to tell at this point of time.
Again, this is likely to be own stay. If you are looking at this 4-bedroom for own stay, consider what we talked about earlier about 4-bedroom. Will you be buying Hudson or will you be buying Bloomsbury? Do your own research calculation. If you want to know about timeline, you can always contact us.
Ta-da! So this is where, of course, you really have any questions, still very lost. Feel free to contact any one of us and we'll be more than happy to assist you.
So we have come to the end of our analysis for Hudson Place residences. If you have got further questions, feel free to contact us. Otherwise, I'm Gina.
I'm Eric.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.